Good morning and welcome to the Public Infrastructure meeting for November the 19th. I'll call the meeting to order, and I see Michelle, if you want to join us at the table, you're more than welcome. Absolutely, you're more than welcome, or you can sit there. Just wanted to make sure that I extended that invitation. Okay, so approval of October 15 minutes. Before we do that, if we can introduce ourselves. I'm Councilwoman Ortiz and the chair of the Infrastructure Committee.
David Banks, councilperson for District 4.
Good morning, Neil Dobler, District 7.
And we also...
And extra person, Michelle Hofer, District 9.
It's always good to have an extra person. Thank you. Action items, the CIP funding source.
Josh McInerney will handle this one.
Good morning, Josh.
Morning, everybody. So, taking a step back, about a month ago, we came to this committee to broach the idea on changing some funding sources for previously approved CIP projects. And what a couple of those were, so just reading through the bulleted list, changing the infill sidewalk program from bonds to the federal fund exchange, as well as the 2024 traffic signal program that was partially FFE funded to being fully FFE funded. And then also changing the neighborhood infrastructure program, splitting that out to where it is citywide half-cent sales tax covering half of those costs. For those three bullets, the reason we wanted to do that is we wanted to take advantage of spending down some excess fund balance in other funds while keeping a conscious effort to keep our bonding costs low. Because as you see in the fourth bullet, we are proposing converting the facilities maintenance improvement program from 25 from cash to bonds. And so that was the thought process behind changing the first three to a different funding source so we can actually have capacity to change the firm to the bonding, the bonding funding source. And then finally, it makes me more comfortable to do the fourth bullet too, knowing that originally when we had the fleet building earmarked in our CIP for $3.2 million due to some negotiations and forward information that now that amount is basically a little under $2 million, and that was scheduled to be bonded. So there's another $1 million of savings and bond authority there as well. So we're kindly asking to you guys to approve of these funding source changes to eventually get consideration by the full governing body.
Okay. Are there any questions? Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, no questions really. Just appreciate Josh and staff looking at, I know that our funding is a mix of different sources, particularly for the CIP. It's difficult to project out sometimes even a year, let alone 2, 3, 4 years like we have to do for the CIP. So appreciate them keeping track of which funds make the most sense at the present time, particularly as we get ready to bond projects. And I know they're also looking at the balances in the quarter or the half-cent sales tax, as well as the federal fund exchange account. So thanks for doing that. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
Well, can I say one more thing?
Sure.
And going off the fourth bullet point, I wanted to just make clear, just because we're converting to bonds doesn't mean that's set in stone. We don't sell bonds until September. So if we have another funding source pop up or we want to pivot and change to a cash funding, council can always pivot on that option. So just because we vote on it today or council votes on it in the next month does not preclude us from finding another funding source. That way we don't have to bond. So that flexibility is still in place. I wanted to point that out.
Okay. I would like to, I apologize if I missed you. It looks like Deputy Mayor and Councilman Miller has joined us. Do you guys have any questions or concerns?
I do not, Madam Chair. I do not. Thank you very much.
Okay, and please don't hesitate to holler at me if I miss you, because I'm not trying to do that. Appreciate you joining us. Okay, so
How would you like us to do that? How would you want us to do that? Just reaction on the Zoom, or you want to just speak up?
just speak up would be fine. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so with that said, with what Josh said, we could always go back and change it or amend it or whatever. I'll take a motion from the floor.
Motion to approve.
It's been
Second.
moved and seconded. It's been moved by Councilman Banks and seconded by Councilman Dobler. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 3-0. Thank you. The next thing is the firm repair update, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jason Tryon, Deputy Director of Public Works, will present on this item.
Good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Madam Chair. So as our custom with this program, what we have today is just a document outlining what our anticipated priorities will be both in 2025 and then also for the next couple of years. So the current budget for 2025 is $2.3 million. What you have in front of you is a budget for roughly $2 million worth of items to repair in 2025. These are all estimates at this point. We will go out and seek additional
Mike.
We'll go out and seek additional estimates and refine these as we get the engineers and architects and different disciplines involved to do these projects. But in total, we have several projects for the Law Enforcement Center, some for TPAC, and then some miscellaneous smaller repairs at fire stations, some of our other buildings, including this building as well, that you'll see on that document. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about some of the projects we have outlined for 2025.
Okay. Are there any questions? Councilman
Jason,
Thanks.
thank you, ma'am. Is there a repair schedule for station number 9?
So station number 9 is getting renovated right now. Those funds are coming from the 2024 funding.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
2024 funding? Is that what you said?
That's correct.
I did see the big dumpster out there.
Yep, so we are getting started on that project then next week to do a pretty thorough renovation to Fire Station 9, including some new finishes inside, some new restroom facilities for our female firefighters, and upgrading the locker rooms and living spaces, as well as some upgrades to the bay, which will allow us to change the type of apparatus that can operate out of that station.
Okay. Did you have any questions, Councilwoman?
I do. I'm just curious, how do you choose which ones? Say the budget comes in for one of them and it chews up a lot of the money. How do you prioritize, and then do you move the other items back to the next year?
So it's a combination of, we had various assessments that were done by some qualified engineers and architects over the past several years to identify what systems they think are in danger of failing or most in need of replacement. We've been working through those over the past several years, and then also taking a look at what systems we know are outdated or cause large maintenance issues for our staff right now. We schedule for those for replacement. If these budgets are not accurate and they require more funds, we would be back in front of this body to discuss how we were changing those budgets or changing our priorities. And then also we have to work through what's feasible. So we have some repairs that we'd like to make to this particular building, but that's not feasible until we fully wrap up all the City Hall repairs, because we wouldn't have anywhere for people who are displaced by those renovations to sit. So there's a lot of different factors that go into it, but primarily it is based on what we think is most prudent to repair.
So do we approve this list and leave it up to year by year?
So year by year, what the typical practice is, if this body recommends, we have a resolution that we will have ask legal to repair, make that recommendation to the full council, and then the full council would approve it. And then as we bid out these projects and put them under contract, we would bring them back before this body for approval before they go under contract.
Okay.
Thank you. I have a couple. Are you done?
I have one more.
I'm sorry.
The TPAC, are we doing anything about the lighting? I guess it's somewhat fixed along the walk going up to, if we're parked on the east, going up the Chambers. Last week came out, a couple worked, a couple didn't. Are those solar, or are we going to put in permanent
So there are a couple issues there. One is that there are some solar lights that are currently temporary that are along that walkway to the east of the building. One of the projects that you'll see on here is adding a new ADA ramp, we are preparing to replace right now. That ADA ramp will allow for some hardwired LED lighting that will illuminate that walkway heading east from the TPAC area as well as municipal court. So that is one upgrade. There's also a package in here. One of the issues that we currently have with all the lighting around City Hall is all added at different times, and any problem in any one of those lights can short out different banks of lights. So we have some funding in here to consolidate those to a central control panel and also add some additional controls that would allow us to do things hopefully like add different lighting packages, different colors at different times of the year, and better control which lights come on when.
Thank you.
Chair, I have a quick question.
Deputy Mayor.
I don't know if this has been discussed in previous meetings. Apologies if it has, but since we are talking about TPAC, can I just ask real quick about the state of the, as you come out of the municipal court building when we leave city council meetings, the state of that sidewalk area right there, or it is so bad, there's cracks in between to where a heel could get stuck, where it is, to me, very dangerous and just laden with all kinds of risk. When is that going to be taken care of?
So we have two separate projects which you can see on the document. One is the ramp.
I don't, my apologies, Jason, I don't have that in front of me.
Okay, I'll be happy to send that to you at the end of this meeting. But there are two projects. One is that ramp heading east, which would make it a full continuous ramp going from the municipal court entrance down towards Monroe and allow for some ADA parking on Monroe to access TPAC and municipal court. The stairs in front of TPAC, we are working with SHPO to get an alternate proposal together. So there is that limestone landing on those steps. That limestone, unfortunately, has been very difficult to maintain, and there are some cracks and gaps, which we have gotten temporarily filled. We do have some funding in this proposal to replace that limestone with something more durable and get a more permanent repair in place. We also know that the sidewalk panels at the bottom of the steps have had a lot of degradation, and so there is some funding in here as well to replace the handrails and then those sidewalk panels at the bottom of those steps.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Dobler or Miller, do you have anything to add? Okay,
No question.
I was going to ask about the ADA ramp on the east side. Will that go all the way down, or will it swing back around?
So there is a switchback in place, so because of the grade of that hill, to
Right.
go one continuous slope would be too steep for the
Right.
modern ADA regulations. So as you leave the municipal court and council chambers exit, if you're coming out those doors going to the left, it will go down a portion of the way down the hill, do a switchback, and then come back and then terminate towards the southeast corner of TPAC at 8th and Monroe. So the continuous ramp will exit out near the corner of the street. The existing walkway will tie into that. So if you're heading back north towards City Hall, you'll have two options. But the continuous ramp will go down towards the corner of the intersection because that's the most convenient place that we can place the ADA parking.
Okay. Jason, I know we just talked about the stairs. Also, I wanted to say something. I know that area, like towards the bottom, it is kind of dark towards the bottom of the stairs, you know. I know we had a employee that fell, I think, a couple of weeks ago. She went down about the same area that I went down.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I know that my attorney friend said that we should probably put a sign out there like slippery when wet when it's raining or snow or something. Just some type of sign would probably be, be good. I don't know. That's just a suggestion. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
We can certainly do that.
Okay. And I did too notice that the lights, there was some missing and then there was some higher than the others. And I heard that they stole some of our lights. So I guess once we work on it, we'll have some permanent lighting there.
Correct. So
Okay.
in the ADA ramp, we will have permanent lighting that's affixed to the concrete, whereas right now we have something temporary which is embedded in the ground that a fastidious person can dig up.
Right, which they are. Okay, gotcha. Okay, wanted to talk about the impound lot fence. I didn't think we were really using the impound lot, or I thought we did away with that. What's going on there?
So we still have some storage that's used at that impound lot. So right now we use that for our Impact Avenue storage. That fence also connects into our facility structure and then also into our street infrastructure. So we want to make sure that we have one continuous barrier across all three of those locations that secure and deters people from getting into our property.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. If there's no more, I see no more. I'll take a motion from the floor.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Dobler, seconded by Councilman Banks. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 3-0. Thank you. I need to go back and, thank you, Jason. We'll do, I'm going to go back to 2. I skipped that. Approval of the October 15th minutes. Has there, motion to approve? I'll second it. Approval of the October 15 minutes. So everybody had a chance? Are you, yeah, Councilman Dobler?
Oh, I thought we were voting.
Okay,
Sorry.
let's vote.
All right.
3-0. Thank you. Okay, 4, presentation of Southwest 4th and 5th Street.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take this item. 2 months ago at the Public Infrastructure Committee, you had raised the issue for us of 4th and 5th Streets between Topeka and Kansas and asked us to take a look at that. 2 developments have occurred since that time. First is that we engaged our traffic consulting engineer, which is WSP, to do a study of this area and to provide recommendations to improve overall safety. In addition to that, we have also been awarded a grant totaling $1.9 million. That's 1.7 of KDOT funding and 200,000 of city matching share to fund significant improvements along 4th and 5th, as well as Adams, which are basically 3 of the projects that were identified and recommended as part of the latest, I believe, Phase 5 of the Bikeways Master Plan. So with the funding in place, we will be able to do those improvements. The 4th and 5th Street improvements and the Bikeways Master Plan actually go from Washburn all the way over to Kansas. The area of this study is the critical area just between the boulevard and the avenue. With that, Madam Chair, I will jump into the presentation unless you have any questions.
Are there any questions before we start? Any online? Go ahead, continue, please.
Thank you. So the study area, again, is Topeka Boulevard over to Kansas Avenue, and we're talking about the 2 one-way streets, 5th and 4th. So quick stats. The traffic accident history that we looked at was 5.5 years. The length of that corridor is basically 1/3 of a mile, and we have 2 and 3 lane one-way major collectors along this area. 4th is one-way westbound. We've had 61 crashes, including 2 head-on collisions, which would indicate someone did not understand that it was one way and was driving the wrong way, and with 2 injuries resulting from that. The average daily traffic count along this corridor is only 1,900 vehicles per day, which is demonstrates that that street is well over capacity, that we do not need 2 or 3 lanes to be able to carry that volume of traffic. Southwest 5th Street, same story, 37 crashes in the 5.5 year period, 1 head-on collision. Fortunately, that was property damage only. And we're looking at ADT, or average daily traffic count, of 1,200 vehicles per day. Again, that street is way over capacity. We do not need 2 or 3 lanes in that 4-block corridor. So to put this into perspective, the critical crash rate is basically statewide 192.5 crashes per 100 million vehicle miles. The crash rate on 4th is at 215.7 crashes. I'm sorry. Yes, calculated rate is 3,029 crashes per 100 million vehicle miles, which is 14 times higher than the critical crash rate. 5th Street is 17.3 times higher than the critical crash rate of 221 crashes per 100 million vehicle miles. So this is existing condition right now, looking northbound at 4th and Van Buren. You see there in the right-hand side, you can see the single arrow indicating that is only westbound movement. And then on existing conditions for 5th Street, again, looking northbound, you see the single arrow indicating that it is one-way eastbound. If you were to not be paying attention and miss that, looking at a street that is largely devoid of traffic, you may be tempted to make a left-hand turn on there because you see there's 3 lanes, or 2 or 3 lanes depending on which segment you're in. So this is, in my opinion, probably the largest reason that we have these high accident rates in this small corridor. So what our traffic consultant has done is put together a signage and pavement marking plan to help address and to clearly indicate where you can and cannot turn. Because this is busy, let's just take a look at a couple of specific instances. Now, we have also overlaid the treatment that will be provided as part of the funding through that bikeway grant that we've received, which will also help to do this. So I'll just point out a couple of things. First, you have a bike lane that will take one of those existing through lanes of traffic, and then we will have bulb outs that will also help to delineate where you can travel and where you can't, coupled with pavement markings on the boulevard, which will indicate the permissive movements, either through or left turn or through or right turn if you're going southbound on the boulevard. So this combination of pavement markings, signage, bulb outs, bike lane will all work in concert to greatly improve the traffic safety as we go through this corridor. Again, we are looking at, in this particular section, going from effectively what are 4 lanes down to a through lane and then a turn lane. Again, this is at Van Buren and 4th. This is the intersection that we looked at in that before slide that we had. Again, pavement markings on Van Buren indicating what are the permissive turn movements, coupled with signage reinforcing the permissive sign movements, as well as signage prohibiting and making it very clear that it's do not enter on that westbound traffic on 4th Street at Van Buren. Again, at the Avenue, we're talking major improvements in terms of bike lane and a strip in the middle to help delineate traffic, as well as then, of course, on the west side of the Avenue, that is goes to one-way. And then similar treatments at Topeka Boulevard and 5th, bike lane, adding signage and pavement markings to make it very clear to drivers what options are available to them. And then Van Buren and 5th, similar to what the treatment was at 4th, adding bike lane, buffered bike lanes, so they'll be buffered by parking lane, going down to a single through lane. And then, again, curb extensions to help shorten that path for pedestrians to get across. So significant improvements in terms of allowing for safety. Last item is the Avenue and 5th, which is, as we know, one-way eastbound. Again, you'll be two driving lanes, which will have clearly indicated on 5th what movements are available to you, and then adding that buffered bike lane. So again, the overall project will reduce the number of travel lanes, add a protected cycle lane, being funded out of by KDOT. It was one of the, or three of the projects that were identified for this next phase of the Bikeways Master Plan. High-level cost estimate just for the signage and pavement markings exclusive of any of the bike work and the curb extensions is just at $30,000. We believe that there is sufficient room within the grant that as we do this project, we will address all of these issues at one time. And I gladly stand for any questions, and I want to personally thank you for bringing this up 2 months ago at the committee meeting so that we could do a deep dive into this. I honestly had no idea that we had that exceedingly high crash history in that third of a mile long corridor on 4th and 5th. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Braxton. I don't know how long ago, we've had some deaths on 5th Street. We had that little boy, that guy that went down the wrong way. And I know coming out of the Department of Children and Families garage, it hits right on the sidewalk where there's a lot of cyclists, bicyclists coming. I've almost hit 3 of them because they fly down the sidewalk and you're pulling out to see. So it is very, very dangerous. And I've witnessed 3 crashes right there at 5th and Van Buren, coming off Kansas Avenue. Yeah. So thank you for that. But I know that I don't know how far back you went on your reports, but I know that there's been some serious accidents.
Yes, the period we looked at, ma'am, was, I believe, approximately 5.5 years.
Okay. Maybe it's been that long. So I thank you. Are there any questions?
I don't have any, Chair.
Any questions?
I have one, Chair.
Deputy Mayor?
This is for Braxton, and this is just an inquiry because I don't have, even though you gave all of the, photos to look with the bulb outs. The bulb outs are probably one of the most unpopular things that have happened on Seward in Oakland. A lot of complaints about having to edge out more and more, and the fear of cars going east or west that may, as the cars kind of come out past the bulb out so they can see that there will be some kind of collision. All of that has been anticipated and there's not going to be any concern about that, right? It's a basic question. This is not in my backyard, but I understand it sounds like a serious concern. It's just a basic question.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and certainly the Seward Avenue project, we have learned many lessons from that. As you will remember, because you and I met out there numerous times, and for the benefit of the committee members and other council members attending, the bulb outs were woefully undersized from 2 perspectives. First is that they were intended to be small BMPs, best management practices, to help with stormwater. And because they were so woefully undersized and improperly designed, they were not allowing for the stormwater to be captured, and so it was ponding and pooling out on the street. The other thing, because they were woefully undersized, they did not meet our code requirements relative to the site triangle. So there was a very big issue in terms of those small bulb outs, people having to edge their way up to be able to get to a point where they could see around those parked vehicles. The utilities spent several $100,000 on that project, retrofitting those, expanding the size, which improved both stormwater drainage. We also changed the design to make them more effective so that they didn't cause ponding, water to pond on those streets, making them impassable. Also, they were difficult for ADA compliance. So certainly we have learned from that. We also make sure that any vegetation in those would be under 30 inches, which is the height that we have, maximum height in the site triangle so that it doesn't present a danger. While there are many people that don't like bulb outs, there's sound engineering behind having those because they get the pedestrians out visible to the drivers. They also significantly shorten the crossing distance. So from a pedestrian safety, particularly in a downtown area where you have a lot of people mobile, walking around, very, very helpful to have those bulb outs. But I thank you, Deputy Mayor, for the great comments on that, because certainly we did learn a lot of lessons from the Seward Avenue project.
Well, listen, Braxton, this is in no way, shape, or form meant to diminish what has helped with lessening that water pooling and retention. I personally can live with them. I mean, we know the work that went in and the lessons that were learned. I just wanted to make sure that, and I'm sure it sounds like it has, all of that's has been put into consideration, because as a council person and with the intense rains that we get, I have no problem with them. So thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I too struggle when I leave the bank at that corner at Lake. So it's just something that's different, very different, and I get it. Are there any other questions? Michelle, do you have a question?
Go to 4th and Topeka Boulevard. You're cutting 4th Street down to one lane. That's a main driving lane for the fire trucks coming from the station at 4th and Jefferson. And they're coming through and they've got to turn onto Topeka Boulevard, or they've got to head west. What do you do if somebody's already sitting there in the lane? You only have one lane there. You're forcing somebody out into the intersection to get past them. So how do you deal with that?
5th and the Boulevard, which intersection,
No,
ma'am?
4th. They're heading west.
4th and Kansas or 4th and Topeka?
Topeka. You're in a major intersection where you've got a lot of north-south traffic. You've got one lane coming through on the east side of the intersection. Say it's at 5 o'clock. You've got people backed up there coming from their jobs, and you've got a fire truck coming. Where are they going to go? I mean, they can't go into the intersection. I mean, to me, you really need to have 2 lanes there so you've got room for cars to get out of the way.
So we only have concept plans. We have not even entered into the contract with KDOT yet that would allow us to engage an engineer to actually do the design. So these are concept plans from the Bikeways Master Plan. So certainly we absolutely have the ability to look at that in terms of what can we do. The first thing that comes to mind is mountable curb for the fire engine to just go over and go around if the cars can't clear, whether it's one lane or whether it's 2 lanes.
Because that's a busy intersection.
Yes, ma'am.
And then what about you're putting in a parking lane, but what happens, I know next to that apartment building, you've got, or at least there used to be, angled parking. What are you going to do with the angled parking or parking that's already there? Are we eliminating it, or what are we
So we
doing?
can go to, that parking would be intended to be parallel parking.
Okay, so go over to 5th Street. There's a lot of parking along the street,
5th and Topeka?
anywhere along 5th Street. We've got parking, street parking all along there. Where are we at?
5th and Topeka?
Go to the next one. Do we have, Van Buren. There's parking next to those buildings. There's parkings along the Y side. And then the next block, there's parking on both sides.
Yes, ma'am. And so this would have, on the east side, you've got a parking lane, which would be buffering the bike lane. And then you have two drive lanes. Likely, the traffic counts would only warrant a single drive lane, so we could do a
Well, no,
parking lane on
I'm just
both
asking,
sides.
what are we doing with that parking? Is it going away?
Yes, ma'am. It's in-
Because in front of, well, here's like A1
Right.
lock,
Luckensville.
Yes, ma'am.
and they have angled parking coming in front of it.
Yes, ma'am.
So what happens to that parking? Does that become,
Parallel parking, so it would be the buffer for the bike lane.
no, I'm talking about
In front of their building, they have,
right here,
yeah.
where the shadow is, they have angled parking. So what becomes of that?
There's probably about 8 stalls there at angled
Yeah, I
parking
was thinking
there.
it's like 4 or 5 stalls. Usually there's, yeah, so we
Well-
will take a look at that.
Because I don't know if that becomes street property, you just have a sidewalk and grass, or, I'm just trying to visualize it in my head what happens to it. Because we don't have, I hate to say it, we don't have as much traffic in some areas, especially the Y, since it just, well, it's not the Y anymore, Great Life, doesn't have the traffic it used to. But people like to go into A1, but we're only talking a few people. There used to be a beauty shop there.
That's what I was gonna say. There's also a beauty shop at the end. And then,
So that's their client parking. I don't want to hurt the businesses.
Yes, ma'am.
but they also have this parking lot as well. And I don't know how many parking stalls that you can get right there to the,
Yeah, I don't know
To the
how that
east.
one's used.
they use that one too. Because
they?
there's nobody, it used to be that siding place that used to be in there. They're no longer there.
So this is conceptual, right? I mean, there's still an opportunity.
Correct.
Maybe
This
sidewalk,
absolutely is
and
conceptual.
sidewalk, bike lane, and then the parking lane in those stalls.
Will the people that have those businesses be contacted to discuss?
As part of the
What's gonna
design,
happen
as
to-
part, on all of our major projects, we do public engagement, right? Because we want to not just have the contractor out there starting to remove things, right? So very much so.
We've changed how we're doing that, so we're getting out to actually talk to some of the business owners, but I just want to make sure somebody doesn't get a surprise. Because that would, when you have clients coming in, you don't want all of a sudden they can't use what they're used to. That's changing some of those people. It's changing their long built-in habits. So. it's just-
Completely understood and agree. Great comments.
I guess that's all I've got right now.
Okay? Do you have anything else?
No.
Neil, do you have anything else?
All good, thank you.
Anybody online, they have any comments, questions, concerns? And I did ask staff to email you our presentation, our packet from today. Anything else?
No, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Okay. City manager, what you got to say?
Nothing, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Braxton, is that it?
Thank you, Madam Chair. That's all.
Okay. All right, our next meeting will be December the 17th, and it will be a virtual special meeting.
Madam Chair, I believe we may have a meeting scheduled for this Friday, the 22nd, as a special meeting for public infrastructure.
Oh, you're right, I'm sorry, that's what I was thinking. Yes, we have a virtual special meeting on November the 22nd at 10, and that's Zoom only. And then on December 17th, that's our regular meeting. Okay, if there's nothing else, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.